Have you ever found yourself lying awake at 2 a.m., heart racing, mind spinning with what-ifs? Have you ever felt like your breath was shallow, your thoughts too loud, and peace a distant stranger? You're not alone. In this modern world, anxiety is no longer the exception. For many, it has become the norm. But let me ask you something deeper. What if your anxiety wasn't the enemy? What if it were a messenger, trying to show you the places within that are crying out for care, for presence, for healing? From the perspective of the Buddha's teachings, suffering, including anxiety, is not a punishment, nor a life sentence. It's a signal, a call to return home to ourselves. As the Buddha taught over 2,500 years ago, with our thoughts, we make the world. This means that if the mind is where suffering begins, it is also where freedom begins. Anxiety often arises from our attachments, our clinging to how we think life should be, and our fear of how it might change. We fear loss, rejection, failure, uncertainty. We grasp at security in an impermanent world. But here's the truth. Nothing is permanent. Everything is changing, moment by moment. And that's not something to fear, it's something to breathe into. The miracle lies in our ability to observe, breathe, and let go. Through the practice of mindfulness, compassion, and non-attachment, we can learn to sit with our anxiety, not as victims of it, but as compassionate observers. We can gently, patiently transform it into clarity, presence, and peace. So today, I invite you on a journey not to escape your anxiety, but to truly meet it, to listen, to breathe with it, to understand its roots through the eyes of wisdom. Because in that space of understanding, a profound freedom awaits. Let us begin right here, right now, with the breath, the doorway home. One of the greatest illusions we face in our anxious minds is the belief that we're somehow powerless, trapped by circumstances, events, or even our own personality traits. Yet when we look at our experience through the lens of the Buddha's teachings, we see that nothing is fixed or permanent. Anxiety, like a storm cloud, may hover above us, but it's not the entire sky. If our minds were truly powerless, the storm would never pass. But storms do pass. And the very fact that we can observe, reflect on, and transform our reactions gives us hope. Let me share with you a story that I've witnessed time and again. Imagine a bright, hardworking professional, let's call her Sarah, who has all the outward signs of success. A stable job, a loving family, a circle of friends. Yet inside, a quiet tremor of fear grows each day. Sarah dreads her morning routine because her mind races with 1,000 what-ifs. What if I mess up a project? What if my boss notices my mistakes? What if the people I love suddenly leave me? In the silence of the night, this fear amplifies. closing around her like a clenched fist. Over time, the anxiety becomes Sarah's constant companion, an unwelcome guest she cannot shake off. She feels guilt for being weak. She blames her body for trembling, her heart for racing, her mind for spiraling. And in her desperation, she forgets one vital truth. She has the capacity to pause, to breathe, and to see anxiety for what it is, a pattern, not a permanent state. According to the Buddha, our suffering stems from cravings and attachments. We cling to comfort and stability, wishing reality would behave exactly as we command. But reality is in constant flux, always dancing, never still. When we understand that everything changes, absolutely everything, we discover the potential to ride the wave rather than drown. We don't have to deny or defeat our anxiety. We can learn from it, recognize its impermanence, and gently let it subside. In Sarah's case, she reached a turning point when she decided to sit quietly with her breath for just 5 minutes each day. 5 minutes, that was all she could manage at first. Those 5 minutes sometimes felt like an eternity. Her thoughts swirling about deadlines, finances, and the nagging fear that she was simply not enough. Yet Sarah remembered the Buddha's words. Your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own unguarded thoughts. And so, she persisted. Each breath became a small victory, a moment of clarity amidst the chaos. Slowly, Sarah began to notice that her anxiety did not define her. It was a state passing through, like a weather pattern moving across the sky of her awareness. In the midst of her practice, she discovered a precious window of calm, a tiny island of peace within the ocean of her mind. Sure, storms still came. Anxiety didn't vanish overnight. But with each conscious inhale and exhale, Sarah built a refuge of stability, grounded in the present moment, rather than the hypothetical tomorrows that fueled her fears. This shift is what the Buddha called right mindfulness, a deliberate, compassionate awareness that does not deny suffering but holds it gently in an open palm. When we apply right mindfulness, we allow ourselves to see our inner landscape more clearly. We recognize tension in the shoulders. We hear the inner critic stirring up doubt. We notice how fear tightens the chest. Yet instead of judging or resisting, we acknowledge these sensations as transient events. Yes, anxiety is arising. Yes, these thoughts are here. And yes, they, too, will pass. Crucially, this approach does not teach us to ignore life's challenges. The Buddha never suggested complacency. Rather, mindfulness empowers us to respond instead of merely reacting. By taking a moment to breathe and name our discomfort, anxiety, fear, worry, we deactivate our fight or flight impulses. No longer are we puppets yanked around by invisible strings. We become authors of our own inner story. Another principle the Buddha taught is loving kindness, or metta. This is often overlooked when talking about anxiety, yet it's profoundly impactful. When anxiety arises, we can practice directing warmth and compassion toward ourselves. May I be well. May I feel safe. May I find peace right here, right now. These gentle wishes act like balm on the raw edges of our fear. They don't magically eliminate the cause of anxiety, but they remind us that we are worthy of kindness even, and especially when we're in distress. Over time, Sarah started to see that her anxious thoughts were at their core pleas for attention. They were signaling her to slow down, to honor her limits, to communicate more openly at work, and to invite support where needed. She discovered that anxiety can be a teacher, pointing to areas in our lives that require greater balance or self-care. Rather than condemning herself for feeling anxious, Sarah learned to ask, "What is this moment teaching me? How can I respond skillfully, with a tender heart and a clear mind?" The results weren't instantaneous, but they were transformative. She found more ease in everyday tasks. Her body relaxed when she allowed it to feel anxious without shame. Her relationships improved when she communicated her needs more openly. She even noticed moments of joy she'd overlooked before: a colorful sunrise, the soft hum of morning birds, the quiet satisfaction of finishing a single task mindfully. In short, her perspective shifted from dreading life's challenges to opening her heart to the flow of each day. This is the power of mindful living. We move from autopilot to conscious presence. We break the chains of anxiety by acknowledging them, breathing through them, and replacing self-criticism with genuine self-compassion. Anxiety, then, becomes not a chain binding us, but a message calling us to practice deeper care. And every time we heed that call with mindfulness, we grow a bit more resilient, a bit braver, and a bit kinder toward ourselves and others. You, too, can begin this journey. You don't need fancy equipment or special talents. All you need is your breath, an open heart, and the willingness to practice. Even if you start with just a single moment of awareness each day, know that this moment holds the seed of boundless freedom. Embrace it, nurture it, and watch as your anxiety, once overwhelming, becomes a gentle wave guiding you back to the peaceful shore of your true nature. Have you ever noticed how anxiety often whispers the same stories over and over? It might say, "You're not good enough," "You'll never succeed," or "The future is too scary to face." These stories can feel overwhelming, yet they are not ultimate truths. In Buddhist thought, there's a recognition that each of us carries a deep potential for insight, a light within that can reveal a way through every dark corridor of the mind. The process of illuminating this path begins by recognizing that no matter how persistent anxiety feels, it is still just a set of thoughts and sensations, subject to change. One of the most empowering teachings the Buddha offered is that suffering, be it anxiety, grief, or despair, contains the seed of wisdom within it. When we look carefully at our moments of distress, we can discover signposts pointing toward the causes of our suffering, as well as the factors that can release us from it. This principle is beautifully laid out in the Four Noble Truths, especially the notion that once we understand the source of our attachment or aversion, we can begin to let go. Indeed, letting go isn't about apathy or indifference. It's about trusting that life, in all its dynamic, ever-shifting splendor, can be met with a composed mind and a compassionate heart. Consider the Noble Eightfold Path, which the Buddha described as a framework for living in harmony with ourselves and others. Elements like right understanding and right thought help us examine whether our anxiety-driven beliefs are rooted in reality or in fear. Right effort and right mindfulness guide us to cultivate healthy mental states that are calm, open, and ready to see clearly. Think of this path not as a rigid list of rules, but as a gentle compass that points you toward living with more presence and kindness. If anxiety is the tangle of vines in our mental garden, then each step on this path is like tending the soil, watering the seeds of peace, and trimming away what no longer serves us. Yet, it's important to remember that insight does not bloom instantly. We may meditate one morning and feel serene, only to find ourselves in a spiral of worry by lunchtime. In these moments, it's easy to feel disheartened, to think, maybe mindfulness just doesn't work for me. But the Buddha's teaching reminds us that every practice session, every mindful breath, is a drop of water on the parched soil of our consciousness. With consistent nurturing, even a barren desert of anxiety can come to life with flowers of clarity and resilience. Let us return to the story of Sarah. She began to sense, after several weeks of daily mindfulness, that her panic wasn't random. It flared up when she felt out of alignment with her own truth, like when she avoided asking for help or took on more tasks than she could handle. Through contemplation, Sarah realized that her anxiety was sounding the alarm. She needed to honor her boundaries, communicate her limits, and practice compassion toward herself. These realizations didn't come from an outside expert, but from her own growing awareness. That is the real magic of insight. It arises from within, often quietly, yet powerfully enough to reshape the way we live. It might help to think of insight as a light beam piercing a dark room. At first, the room seems filled with shadows. You can't see the shapes clearly, and you keep bumping into tables and chairs. But once you switch on a lamp, the obstacles become apparent. Anxiety, in this analogy, may be the disorientation you feel in the dark. Insight is the light that helps you navigate the space without fear of the unknown. You see each piece of furniture for what it is, no longer terrifying silhouettes, but just objects in the room of your mind. Of course, turning on that lamp requires effort. In spiritual terms, it's the devotion to regularly sitting with our breath, investigating our thought patterns, and practicing ethical conduct that respects ourselves and others. Each time we notice a spike in anxiety, we can pause, observe, and ask, which story am I believing right now? Is it true? Or is it a product of my fear? We may discover that many worries are rooted in illusions of permanent failure, illusions of isolation, illusions that our worth depends solely on external achievement. The Buddha's insight of non-self anatta teaches that these illusions stem from clinging to an identity that is neither fixed nor complete. By loosening our grip on these false identities, we find that anxiety loses its power to define us. Another powerful tool is compassionate self-inquiry. Rather than berating ourselves for feeling anxious, why can't I be normal? We gently ask, what is this moment showing me about my needs, my wounds, and my aspirations? This shift from judgment to curiosity allows us to approach anxiety with an open heart. It's as if we're saying to our own pain, I see you, and I'm willing to learn from you. When we approach anxiety in this manner, we tap into what Buddhists call wisdom born of suffering. Our difficult moments become teachers, guiding us to healthier relationships, clearer priorities, and deeper empathy for others who are suffering. We recognize that our personal struggles are not isolated events, but a universal human experience. This recognition fosters compassion both inwardly and outwardly, and breaks the solitary confinement of our anxious thoughts. It is also crucial to celebrate every small victory along the way. If you manage to pause just once today before reacting to a surge of worry, that is progress. If you show yourself kindness rather than condemnation, it's worthy of acknowledgement. The path of insight is not about waiting to be entirely free from anxiety before you feel proud. It's about honoring each step that reconnects you with your true nature, a nature that is fundamentally capable of peace. Remember, insight doesn't mean the absence of problems. It means having a flashlight when the darkness falls. Anxiety might still arise, but it no longer holds you captive, because you have the tools to see through its illusions. With mindful awareness, ethical living, and a compassionate attitude, you become the guardian of your own mental space. You decide what stories to nurture and which ones to let pass. Little by little, that once deafening chorus of what-ifs transforms into a gentle reminder to stay present, to keep breathing, and to trust in your innate capacity for growth. And so, my friends, as you journey forward, carry this truth in your heart. Anxiety may visit, but it does not own you. Fear may speak, but it does not define you. With every mindful breath, you are illuminating your inner realm, discovering that the radiant light of insight is and always has been right here within you. Imagine waking up each morning with a sense of calm, knowing that even if anxiety arises, you have the tools to meet it with steadiness and compassion. This sense of inner assurance doesn't appear overnight, and it certainly doesn't come from ignoring the challenges you face. Instead, it emerges from diligent, Loving practice, a commitment to show up for yourself day after day, breath after breath. From the Buddhist perspective, daily practice is crucial because our minds tend to revert to old habits if left untended. Just as a farmer must consistently water and weed the fields, we must regularly nourish our inner garden. If we skip a day or a week, we may notice old patterns of worry creeping back in. Yet the beauty of this path is that each moment offers us a fresh start. The Buddha taught that every mindful breath is an invitation to return to ourselves and cultivate peace, one inhale and exhale at a time. So, how do we begin? For many, a short meditation in the morning sets the tone for the entire day. You can start with as little as 5 minutes, sitting upright, closing your eyes, and focusing on the sensation of each inhale and exhale. When anxious thoughts pop up, because they will gently acknowledge them, perhaps labeling them thinking or worrying, and then guide your attention back to your breath. Think of this practice not as a harsh discipline, but as a caring gesture toward your own well-being. Throughout the day, integrate small moments of mindfulness into your routine. Before replying to an email, pause and take a mindful breath. Before answering a phone call, settle into the present moment and notice your posture. These tiny breaks might seem insignificant, but they accumulate, gradually rewiring your mind to be more present and less susceptible to anxious spirals. By sprinkling mindfulness across your day, you're effectively weaving a safety net that catches you before you spiral into panic or self-doubt. Of course, there will be times when anxiety hits you hard. A sudden reminder of an unpaid bill, an unexpected criticism at work, or a looming deadline. In these moments, recall the Buddha's counsel to meet all experiences with loving awareness. Instead of wrestling with the anxiety, straining to push it away, offer it kindness. You might think or even whisper to yourself, "I see you, anxiety. It's okay that you're here. I will hold you gently until you settle." While this approach may feel foreign at first, it shifts your perspective from enemy mode to caretaker mode, reminding you that all emotions, however intense, eventually pass. Another potent practice is metta, or loving kindness meditation. Spend a few minutes each day silently repeating phrases of goodwill, beginning with yourself. May I be well. May I be peace. It's equally important to celebrate the small wins. If you notice that you pause during a stressful moment to take a deep breath, that's progress. If you manage to respond kindly instead of snapping at someone, that's worthy of recognition. The path of transformation is paved with incremental shifts. Each mindful moment is a jewel we place in the treasury of our practice. The Buddha never suggested we become perfect overnight. Rather, he showed us that steady progress leads to profound change. In essence, daily practice is less about fixing ourselves and more about revealing our true nature, a nature that is calm, clear, and capable of wise action. by consistently returning to our breath, nourishing compassion, and engaging in ethical behaviors, we loosen anxiety's grip. We come to see it as a passing visitor rather than an eternal resident. Over time, a new baseline emerges, one of genuine peace, where the mind is open and the heart is soft. If you feel hesitant or doubt your ability to sustain such practice, remember that every great journey starts with a single step. There's no need to undertake heroic feats. Simply begin where you are, with what you have: a breath, a moment, and the willingness to be present. Your efforts, however small, are the seeds from which boundless serenity can grow. And in that serene space, anxiety loses its power to dominate, allowing you to live from a place of balance, courage, and heartfelt connection. In the quiet space of your own heart, a gentle truth is waiting. You already possess everything you need to transform your anxiety into a source of wisdom and self-compassion. The path we've walked from recognizing the nature of suffering to embracing daily mindfulness stands as a testament to the incredible resilience within each of us. This isn't a fairy tale ending where challenges disappear forever. Rather, it's a reaffirmation of your capacity to meet whatever arises with clear seeing and an open heart. From the Buddhist perspective, our lives are woven of moments that offer us the choice to wake up or remain asleep to our true potential. Anxiety might tug at your sleeve, insisting that you're unworthy or powerless. Yet the Buddha's teachings remind us that the mind, when properly guided, can become your greatest ally. By steering it gently through breath, kindness, and ethical action, you release the chokehold of fear and reclaim your innate dignity. Remember, each breath is a new beginning. Every time you find yourself swept up in agitation, pause and return to the present moment. Be patient with your pace of growth. Like the unfolding of a lotus, deep transformation often happens slowly, beneath the surface, until one day you notice you've blossomed in ways you never imagined. Trust this natural process, and trust yourself. As you move forward, let compassion serve as your compass. Approach difficult emotions with the same care you'd offer a dear friend. Look upon your anxieties not as enemies, but as teachers guiding you to refine your boundaries, clarify your values, and deepen your sense of purpose. Celebrate even the smallest victories: a moment of conscious breathing, a kind response in a tense situation, a willingness to forgive yourself for stumbling. Ultimately, the journey toward inner freedom is less about perfection and more about consistency and love. In honoring each step, no matter how small, you awaken to the luminous truth at the heart of the Buddha's message, that peace is possible, right here, right now. May this understanding give you courage when doubt arises, and may your practice bear fruit in greater clarity, compassion, and an abiding confidence in your own boundless potential. You are not defined by your fears. You are shaped by your choices. Let today be the day you choose kindness, awareness, and a steadfast belief in your capacity for lasting peace.